There we go.
This one, and I got one from like years ago. When is this from? 4 years ago.
Episode
Leo and Tony are on the stream.
episode 271 instead of 471.
369.
Yeah, I had to add in some of the
Oh crap! I got
names
my
and stuff on
VPN
the
running. Hang on a minute.
sheet.
Shoot, hang on. I got some stuff I gotta stop running here. I had some viewable Linux ISOs downloading.
Oh, I see. Very important, those Linux ISOs,
and
my friend.
private internet access is running. But what do we got going on here? Okay. Oh, okay. So OBS just crashed? No. No, it hit itself in the, you can hit it, you can hide it. You can hide it in the taskbar. I've never done that before.
I was going to say it's still streaming.
I wouldn't know why you would want to hide OBS in the taskbar, but that's just my use case. Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the mintCast, the podcast by the Linux Mint community for all users of Linux. This is episode 471, recorded on Sunday, October 26th, 2025.
Like a leaf on the wind, I'm Joe.
Scrambling to the last minute, I'm Bill.
My name is Majid, and I'm a fake sister.
Remembering the Spaceman, I'm Jim. First up in the news, LMDE7 GG has been released. Then in our wanderings, Bill suffers an outage. Joe's Jellyfin is okay. Majid is back full-time. And Jim has a lot of extensions. And finally, the feedback and a couple of suggestions. Please remember, if you want to follow along with our discussions, the full show notes for this episode are linked in the show's description at mintcast.org/show-notes. Let's start with the news. LMDE7 GG has been released. Who's going to talk about this, fellas?
Well,
I can talk a little bit, I suppose. I had kind of slightly jumped the gun thinking it had come out last time we did a show. Hadn't actually come out. But it wasn't that long after, actually, October the 14th. So I was only a couple of days early. It's been released October 14th. Upgrade instructions are available on the Linux Mint blog. If you're on the beta, you don't need to upgrade. You just apply any any available updates. The release notes are linked in the show notes. As I mentioned last time, my next Mint install, I'm going to try this. I've just not had to do a Mint install yet. Didn't you have one, Bill? An LMDE? Or am I confused?
I think I did 6. And I installed it in a KVM, and it was fine. And if 7 is just kind of a continuation of that, then I think most people who are comfortable using Mint would get along. Most people, I say most people. If you don't have to go out of your way to get some kind of esoteric driver or something like that, you're going to do fine with LMDE.
And you don't need PPAs like Jim.
Well, therein lies the rub, because if you want PPAs, you're going to have to go and see if you can find actual Debian repositories for these things.
Yeah. I mean, I should know this, but apart from Cinnamon and Mate, are there any other desktops with LMDE? I know we have XFCE on the mainline edition as well.
No, I think if you install LMDE, you're going to get Cinnamon. Now, which is not to say that if you're well enough with Debian, you can't get anything you want up and running, because it's there. You just got to know how to navigate through all that.
Yeah, but then I suppose if you're doing that, then why are you getting LMDE? Why aren't you just getting Debian?
Well, I mean, you do get the extra tooling on top of it. With Debian, you're going to either be administering from the command line, or you're going to use something like GNOME software on the GNOME desktop or the related, or what's the KDE one? Discover.
Discover.
Which, they've all got their ups and downs.
Yeah.
But LMDE has the benefit of the Mint tooling on top of it, with the exception of things like the driver manager, things like that. So if you've got, for example, NVIDIA hardware or something like that, the driver manager would flawlessly and it would go and get your binary driver for you and install it, and you'd be up and running with no problem. With this, you'll have to work that out on your own. But it's not like you would boot it up and not even have a desktop, because I think it does come with like all of your open source variants, like Nuvo, for example, for NVIDIA. So you'd have a desktop, but if you wanted the benefit of the closed source drivers, you would have to work that out on your own. But that's really it. I mean, other than that, you'd have the update manager and things like that. You just would run into trouble with things like PPAs. If you're used to using a lot of PPAs, you probably wouldn't consider using something like LMDE, though, because PPAs mean that you're pretty well entrenched in the Ubuntu ecosystem, because that is a overtly Ubuntu thing. But yeah, there it is, for people that like the stability and do-it-yourself sort of nature of Debian, but like the little bit of polish that Mint puts on top. There it is.
Cool. All right then. And Jim's got a couple of news articles he wants to talk to us about.
Yeah, I do. This one is something I've been following. Amazon appears to be suppressing Fire TV 4K Select reviews and actually calling negative reviewers on the telephone, which I found surprising. According to this article,
it's a bit dodgy, that, isn't it?
Yeah. So this article, AFTVnews.com, to site I frequent about broadcast television and streaming and cord cutting in general. They've actually done some research on this, including the person that wrote the article, and it appears that Amazon is quite concerned about the amount of negative reviews that the new Fire TV 4K Select device is getting. People are disappointed that it doesn't have the same amount of apps available in the App Store, because this device, unlike their previous devices, is based on some form of Linux, not on Android. And
yeah, I mean, my answer to anybody who doesn't like bad reviews is don't make a crap product, innit?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
There is that.
That's right. Yeah, some people who are not power users seem to be just upset that it doesn't work as the same exact way and doesn't have some of the same apps that are available in the much larger app store. And then people who are power users like myself, who have several Fire TV streaming devices or televisions, or DVR in my case, they're aware that the new Fire TV 4K Select is locked down, as I discussed on a previous episode, and they don't like the fact that, this is now the situation on this new device. The good news appears to be that as of this moment, it doesn't appear that Android is, stopping production of their existing Fire TV 4K or 4K Max devices. So we'll see going forward what happens.
I wonder whether part of this is to do with the terrible naming system, because normally, if there is some kind of significant change in a product, whatever that product might be, there's normally some indication to it. And changing the operating system of a device like this, that is a big change, right? And yet, as far as I can see, you could go on to say Amazon.co.uk or whatever, Amazon.com, and look to buy a 4K TV streaming stick, and you might get the Android version, or you might get this, was it Vega OS, the Linux-based version. And so that's a little bit, so you can understand then if somebody is, as you say, not necessarily a power user, just to kind of plug and play. It's like, wait a minute, why isn't my Netflix working? Why isn't my Disney working? Why can't I cast from my YouTube phone, which I was able to do 5 minutes ago with the old one, right? And there also isn't, because Amazon want to discount products, it also becomes a bit complicated as to, okay, well, which one is the good one? Which one is the higher spec one? Which one is the less spec one? Do you know what I mean? And so, so yeah, you end up in the worst of both worlds, in that, you annoy the people who want just to plug and play, and you annoy the people who want to do stuff, and with this mini little computer on a stick. So I'm sorry, Amazon, it's your own fault. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I gotta get my hands on one of these things because I want to be able to. I want to comment on this with a little bit of
what knowledge? That hasn't
a
stopped
little
before,
bit of real knowledge. So I need to get.
Hasn't stopped you commenting on stuff before, mate.
Well, no, hey, absolutely, and it won't. But I mean, I want to be able to say, because there's so much that could come of this, good and bad. I mean, think about it. If we've got a Linux-based device out there that is running Netflix and Prime and Hulu thin clients, that means there's software out there, in theory, that runs on Linux that is a thin client for the streaming services, which means, in theory, I can put together something on a Pi that runs on Linux and make a set-top box for a TV, from scratch, and then I won't need Amazon and their nonsense and all my stuff going to the cloud.
I can't imagine it being open source though.
I don't care. I mean, I don't expect. I wouldn't expect any of those.
No, what
services.
I mean by that is that it's just going to be then more difficult for you hacking into it, if you know what I mean. Just because it's got a Linux kernel doesn't mean it's
well.
Debian,
If it's just something for watching these, if I don't need to hack it as much. I need to just be able to go and get it and install it, which.
Do you get the feeling that they're going to try and do the same thing with the Amazon TV that they've done with their Fire tablets, where they try to only let you use the stuff that has come directly from Amazon, whether that be the books or Prime Video?
Ooh, so you've got to go through their interface. So you're not actually installing Netflix or Prime or Hulu. You're just adding it to their... Because you can do that with almost everything except Netflix. You can get like a HBO Max subscription, but you access it through the Prime, which is kind of confusing.
Paramount have got that in this country.
Yeah,
you get through Amazon Prime Video, you get Paramount. I don't know what would happen if you had it separately. I know a couple of the other streaming services that we have here, ITV and Channel 4, Channel 5. You can do some of them through Prime Video. You can't do BBC iPlayer, I don't think. But yeah, okay. I'm sure they've got... I mean, the whole point of doing this was because they wanted to lock it down. So it would be counterintuitive for them to do something which would open things up.
Fire Stick 4K Max streaming device, $39.99. That's going in the cart.
No, but do you see what I mean by, like, if you're just a noob, like me, for example, how would you know which version this is? How would you know that, I can just get my, put my Android apps like I've done in the previous ones, or anything like that? You don't know unless you've drilled through it. And then, it's and then people get surprised, or, these companies get surprised that they get bad reviews. Well, you don't make a great product. You're trying to lock it down. It's enshittification anyway. And then on top of that, you're not even advertising it correctly. but there's only 1% of people who are power users who are going to, download this and that. Okay, fine. What about the 99% of other people who have no idea what they're going to get when they've bought something? It's just your own fault, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I took some pleasure in reading about their
Schadenfreude.
negativity. Yes, absolutely. Because I'm happy with the way things are with the existing Fire TV devices. So anyway, so yeah, I'll be following that story along as we go. In other news, NewPipe, which is an alternate YouTube and PeerTube client for Android, turns 10. And from the article on their website, they're celebrating the milestone. And I won't read it to you, but it's from newpipe.net, their blog. The team is looking back and also looking forward. And even though YouTube has been known to thwart devices like this, their team feels like they are going to be able to stay on top of this and look forward to serving the people that enjoy using their software. So for anyone who doesn't know, it's an app you can install on your Android phone. You can even import all your YouTube subscriptions, and you can watch videos. You can watch videos as audio, and you could download videos as video or audio. So it works not just with YouTube, but also with other services like PeerTube and a few others. So it's a great piece of software.
I may have to look at NewPipe. That's an F-Droid download?
F-Droid, yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I've been using Revanced. I've liked Revanced. But recently they put in a speed cap unless you're willing to pay them. So I can't crank it past 2x, and most of the stuff that I was listening to on YouTube was at like 3 or 4x. Yeah. Oh, you have noticed that, or you
No,
haven't?
I haven't noticed it. No.
Do you normally listen to things past 2x?
That fair point. I don't generally. 2x is normally as high as I go.
Yeah, this has been a recent thing, so
Okay.
I don't know if it's rolled out everywhere or what. But within like the last month, they've capped it unless you're paying. So
Interesting.
Yeah, I like NewPipe. My only thing was and probably it's my fault. I just find it a little bit janky. And then when I discovered, first I discovered Brave. Because if you watch YouTube through the Brave browser, it's got all that ad blocking, and you can listen to offline and all that sort of stuff. And it works surprisingly well, considering it's a web app, really. And now I've gone to Revanced. There was something with NewPipe. What was it? There were a couple of my devices, for some reason it wouldn't install on, and I think that was more of my device problem rather than an app problem. So I think that's why I looked at other things. I need to revisit it, really. I really do, because it is a brilliant project.
Yeah, there's also a fork called Pipe. I haven't played with it, but it's another option if you want to look into that as well.
Oh, okay.
do you guys use anything specific on the desktop?
Brave, as I said.
Brave?
Yeah, I generally don't watch videos on my desktop. Well, actually, I have a story in my wanderings later I'll talk about. But yeah, I'm generally watching on SmartTube on my TV or NewPipe on my phone.
If I need to download anything, I go to the terminal and run YTDLT.
Oh, for God's sake. Here we go, Mr. Terminal elitism. Flipping out. I do everything by the command line, I do.
Well, they're better tools, and most of your graphical tools are just front ends for those things anyway.
Right. But every time you...
Well, technically, all of your graphical tools are just front ends.
Exactly. Everything is good. Come on, man.
I mean, that's my point, so you might as well just use the thing.
Unless you really, really enjoy typing out super long YouTube DL commands.
Actually, I can type about 9 times faster than I can click around a screen.
Yeah.
9 times. That's a very precise way of putting it. 9 times.
Yeah.
How did he figure that out?
Because it's easier to say than 10.
Well, Yes.
How's that work either?
How long? Most of your YouTube DL commands, if you're doing anything with them, are like just insanely long, and
YouTube dash
they have-
DLP and then Shift Control.
so you're not adding in the FFmpeg
No,
stuff.
I'm downloading it
okay.
in the default whatever it was uploaded in. I don't do anything special with it. If it downloads and it won't play because it's something weird, which I don't think I can't remember the last time that's ever happened. I would just run it through Handbrake or something like that, so I can. Which I know that's kind of counter what I said, because Handbrake is just a front end for FFmpeg. But yeah,
Yeah, didn't you just say about how?
yeah,
you just do
FFmpeg
it on the
is
command line?
probably a good place to draw the line, though, because that's where it gets a bit long and obtuse dealing with.
Don't worry, I'm pretty sure that sooner or later here he will find an excuse to tell us about running Arch.
He runs Arch, does he? I've no idea about this. Oh my god, I'm so shocked.
I'll have to think about
I might need
that.
to sit down. It's a good thing
I really
am
don't
sitting
have
down, in
anything to
fact.
say because it just runs so well. I don't have to do anything with it. It's all this other stuff I got running that's been giving me headaches.
Anywho, Jim's
like
sitting there
Bill-
going, I can't believe I mentioned this. I shouldn't have started this.
You started it.
I too am a frequent user of YTDLP, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in my wanderings. But I will say that I don't want to download every video I watch. So, that's why I, will use SmartTube on my TV or NewPipe on my phone. The only things I want to download are things that I think may be pulled or disappear, or something I want to collect long term, which is a very finite subset of the things that I want to watch.
Yeah.
I used to use YouTube DL quite a lot, but I did it. Yes, I did it from the command line, and yes, I had it scripted so that I didn't constantly have to do it. But that was back when you could turn YouTube subscriptions into RSSs, and then I could automate the process of pulling it and putting it onto my podcatcher, and just be able to strip everything out and listen to it that way. But that's been several years now, so.
Oh, the good old days.
Let us
All
move
right.
on.
Let's move on. That's the news. Now we are going to do our bi-weekly wanderings, and I believe that Bill is up first.
Oh yeah. Well, it's been all about these servers last couple weeks. I think I talked about this before. Recently discovered that the ECC RAM in all of the servers, which for those of you who don't know, there's a type of memory you can get for servers. It's called ECC, which stands for Error Correcting Code. And it's a good thing to have in servers, especially, it's a good thing for anybody to have, but in servers it becomes a little bit more necessary, because what can happen, especially with copy on write file systems, is that data can sit in RAM for longer than normal periods of time. And if you get like a surge in electricity or something like that, a bit can get flipped and completely corrupt the data before it's written to storage. And your storage...
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, oh yeah. And your storage will never... Even if you're running ZFS, ZFS won't catch it, because it's just...
That's the question I was going to ask. Why wouldn't ZFS catch it?
Because it's happening before the storage gets hold of it. It's happening while it's still sitting in memory before it gets written. Because the checksumming doesn't happen until it gets sent through the storage I/O, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So everything might look fine. It'll look like everything's okay, but the data got corrupted while it was in RAM. Well, ECC is a little bit of extra guts in the RAM stick that prevents this from happening. I think it uses some of the same technology where it does some checksumming or whatever on the RAM side of all the data. I'm not 100% sure how it works, but it does. Not every processor, not every motherboard supports ECC RAM, and so...
Yes, as you were mentioning before.
Yeah.
You've been getting all this ECC RAM and found that your CPU didn't support it.
Yeah, I spent considerably more money for this RAM. I put it in these
Yeah,
machines.
I noticed that. I noticed that as well when I was building my server, that it is significantly more expensive. It's not like, we're not talking like a couple of quid. We're talking about double the price.
If you look at an ECC stick, a normal stick of RAM will have like an even number, most of the time, an even number of chips on it. An ECC stick of RAM will have an odd number because that one extra chip is the error correcting code, and that's one good way to tell the difference. But so yeah, there's extra silicon on these things, so they do cost more money. Well, come to find out, one of these servers I'm using, okay, 3 of them here. One's a Dell PowerEdge T40, which is made to be a server. It came with a Xeon processor, and it sees and uses the ECC RAM that's in it. Great, fine. But the 2 other machines are bargain hunt
Yeah, I mean,
builds that I did myself, and
I mean, if I call them budget, would that be a good enough euphemism for cheap?
I mean, they're super budget. One of them was $15, my man. I mean,
Wow.
One's a ThinkCenter M93P, and the other is a ThinkCenter M92P, which one of the biggest differences, one came with an i5 3470, the other came with the i7 4770, which was,
Are these like proper towers, or are they like
yeah,
mini PC
yeah,
type things?
they're big towers with 2 places for 2 optical drives and everything like that, full to ATX size, whatnot. So they were.
You mean slots? You mean 5.5 inch slots that for converting to like 3.5 or 2 1/4?
You could,
so that
yeah.
You can get some
But I
extra
mean,
drives in there.
the machines have optical drives in them. But I took the motherboards out and put them into these Antec towers that I bought just as an upgrade, so that I would have room for more disk drives and whatnot. Well, come to find out, those processors do not support ECC RAM. So I thought, fine, okay, so I'm going to have to replace those with Xeon processors from the same generation, which was in both cases was like 4th gen i7, i5 Xeon. They're cheap. They're like $50-$60 a piece. Well, the Xeons worked, but still no ECC RAM. So the next thing I'm going to do is the M93P, as it turns out, is supposed to be able to use ECC RAM. It says that it supports ECC RAM, but it's not seeing it. I don't know. I'm going to try to do a BIOS upgrade on that somehow. I'm not sure. I think I can get a BIOS executable that I can upgrade it with. I'm not going to.
What's the number of cores on the Xeons?
The one I put in the M93P has 4 cores with hyper-threading, which, I mean, from Linux's point of view, that's 8 cores. The M92P has got an E3 1275 Xeon in it, and that's got 4 cores. But that was still an upgrade from the i5 3470, which was also 4 cores, but far less power. It was still an upgrade because these kind of processors handle the containerized workloads and whatnot quite a bit better than the regular consumer grade processors do. So I mean, I'm not unhappy with the upgrade, but I'm gonna try the BIOS upgrade and see if that enables the ECC RAM. But from there, I don't know.
I don't know. Are there motherboard settings, like BIOS settings for ECC?
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing, or that's what I'm hearing. Although there wasn't any BIOS setting in the Dell, it just by default worked. And I couldn't find anything in that BIOS to click it on and off. So I'll try my next move, just because it's a $0 try and see will be to upgrade the BIOS on both of those machines. And if that doesn't work, then I'm going to move on to the long-term goal of just replacing both of those. I can get T40 PowerEdge T40 motherboards off of eBay for $120. I'll get a couple of those, and then the Xeons for those are still relatively expensive. The ones that are the same as what I've got in this Dell are still over $300 some. So this might be a very long term buy one thing at a time sort of goal. But once I do, then I'll be kind of set for life, or I'll just learn to live without it, I suppose. The interesting thing is that you wouldn't think, if it didn't support the ECC, you wouldn't think the RAM would work at all, because these Lenovo's were crazy picky about the RAM you put in them. It's not like nowadays where as long as it's like a 4 or a 5, you plug it in and it'll work. You had to have all kinds of numbers matched up with these things to get them to work. So the fact that it is able to use the RAM at all is kind of strange. So maybe it is working. It's just not reporting it to the operating system. I don't know. So that's where I'm at on that. For anybody that tried to access the website or whatnot on Tuesday after 3 p.m., you might have noticed that you were getting an error, and that's because I had an undescript internet outage here in my house. I say undescript because I was the only one on the street with this outage. And I didn't
must
receive...
have been hacked.
Yeah, well, yeah. That daggum old. It's them daggum old Democrats. Part of the problem, and they would not give me any post-mortem information on this whatsoever, because I tried, I said, hey, I want to be able to talk about this on my shows, and maybe I shouldn't have told them that, because they wouldn't tell me anything. Oh, well, we don't really share that information. Well, I'm paying for this stuff. Maybe I should know when it goes down and why, But part of the reason I was the only one on the street that went down is because I'm the only one on the street with a business account with a static IP address. So all the gubbins that makes mine work is a little bit different from everybody else's. So I have no idea why it went down, but it did. And about 4:30 in the morning, it came back up. And then later on in the week, we had a document server outage. I was about halfway through my workday. What was it, Friday? When Jim, was you the first one that mentioned that there was a problem with the document server? Wasn't able to access our show notes, and I do carry a laptop with me when I'm at work, and I'm able to WireGuard back into the house, and I can fix most things, but it has to be like pull over, take a look, and something real quick, and try to fix it, and then move on. I can't spend an hour and a half diagnosing problems on the side of the road normally, or at least I couldn't Friday. So when I got home, ended up having to downgrade the version of Collabra, which Collabra is an online version of LibreOffice that is sort of a server that you can run. Well, it is a server that you can run. Nextcloud connects to it, and that's how you can have Google
like
Docs.
Your own it's like self-hosted Google Docs, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, but it's full fat LibreOffice in your browser. There's no kind of boiling it down the way Google Docs, is that's kind of boiled down to the root, with its functionality. I wish we had something like that, but I ended up downgrading the version of Collabra and upgrading the version of Nextcloud, and then things started working again. So a lot of my frustration, I think, with this is due to the unofficially supported way I have all this installed, which Nextcloud is installed bare metal, which apparently, unbeknownst to me at the time, is not the official way of installing Nextcloud.
Apparently, am I right? They want Docker and all that as well.
Oh,
don't
they've
they?
got an all-in-one image now that just it's fantastic, and it works great. I've got one set up for the family, and it's far easier to manage, and switching between things is just clicking a box here and there, or unclicking a box here, and things just work. And I don't have to have separate servers running for these things that have to be managed separately with the all-in-one image. It's all kind of handled under one master container, that's the way I'm going to go with this eventually. It's just a matter of getting it shut down, rebuilt, and then I want to call it resilvered, but getting all of our data back on it, because the show, we've got a considerable amount of raw data sitting on that server just from audio files and then show notes and whatnot. You kind of want to get it right.
The way that I noticed, that you had the outage wasn't through Collabora, but it was because I was trying to listen to a previous episode through my RSS feeder, and I was like, well, why isn't it working? Then I went in through my browser, and then, that's when I sent you the message saying, why isn't it accessing the thing?
So
I hadn't realized that the Collabora had gone down as well.
Yeah, well, that was the Collabora. That was later on in the week. That was Friday when Collabora stopped working, and I could not figure out why. It was just, see, the thing is, I use a tool called Watchtower to automate updating the Docker containers. And what Watchtower does is it takes all your containers in that particular environment. So in other words, I've got to have a separate Watchtower installed on every machine. But it'll watch all your containers, and it'll look and see if there's an update. And if there is, it will gracefully shut down the container and pull the new image from Docker Hub or whatever, spin up a new container.
I should get this.
Yeah, once it's installed, it's zero configuration. It just works.
I'm gonna stop you right there, because there's two things that you need to worry about with Watchtower.
Oh, there's more than two.
Well, okay, just for its running. I know that it hasn't been updated in quite a long time,
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother issue in itself. But issue number one, during its normal operations, it does not automatically delete the prior images.
No.
I have had this issue where it completely filled up the disk while I wasn't paying attention, because it was updating, and then storing the old images. You have to manually go in and delete those images, or maybe when you first set up Watchtower, there's a process to delete the old images, but I'm not certain of that. Okay, so there isn't.
No.
I had to go in and manually clear out just tons and tons of old images.
Gigabytes.
That is
Gigabytes.
a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you
That
have
is
to
a
do is
problem
you got to
that will
make a
bring down
cron
your
job.
server.
Make a cron job that runs about once a week, and you want to do it once a week because you will in 2 weeks you can accumulate 10 gigs of images and anonymous volumes. So I run
and if you're running it in an LXC that only has a couple of gig of space in the first place,
yeah. Make you a cron job that once a week it'll run the command docker system prune tac AF. That'll clear out all of the volumes, all of the containers that are dangling, and then run another one for docker image prune tac AF. That'll clear out all of the images that are that don't have a currently running.
You would have thought this would have been part of Watchtower, actually. If
You would
the whole
assume.
point, if the whole point of it is that I can't sit here and manually keep checking my Docker containers every 2 minutes or whatever. I'm going to get this app to do it instead. Well, then it should be doing the cleanup as well, right?
It's arguable that had it been updated in the last 2 years, that maybe that would be functionality that would have been added to it. But it's just kind of.
So even making that point, I just did a quick search, DuckDuckGo search, not because we're not Google, on Watchtower, and people are still, you know, I don't want to say the word promoting it, but there's loads of
Still
articles
talking
you can
about it.
find. Yeah, they're talking, how do I do this? Well, you know what? You can always install Watchtower. Oh, here's a guide on how to install Watchtower and all this kind of stuff. And these are new, a month ago, 2 months ago. So it's a bit weird if they're all using a piece of software that hasn't been updated in 2 years.
I think that there's
Now,
not been any problems as a result of Watchtower. And I think once that starts happening, then people are going to start breaking out the pitchforks and whatnot. But it might just be a simple thing, and I don't know how it works on the inside. But if it's just a script that says Docker stop and then Docker pull, that kind of thing, and then starts it back up, well, then all that's not going to change much. It's adding functionality to it that would change, as long as the syntax of those commands doesn't change. Then it might not be a problem that this thing hasn't been updated in some time. But I'm starting to look for alternatives because I don't know what the possibilities are for vulnerabilities with this, and I need it to work without me having to worry about it all that much, because I am often away from this machine, and I need it to just be able to do its thing and run in the background. Because updating containers when you got 3 machines and they're each running at least 9 or 10 containers, doing that manually is just a no-go. That just
the other
sucks.
problem that I had with Watchtower was in regards to Nextcloud. As a matter of fact, it was probably how I had set up Nextcloud on Docker was incorrect. Something in the initial setup command that didn't store the configs in the correct places, whatever. But every time it updated, it would completely lose my entire configuration, and I would have to rebuild the whole thing again, which is why I moved why I shut down Watchtower and moved Nextcloud to a different instance. And still haven't finished resetting it back up yet. So I will probably do the full setup next time in the exact same way that Bill's talking about.
Yeah, the AIO, they call it, all-in-one image, just gets everything. You'll have to declare, and it's mostly you'll have to declare where you want it to put the config, because that's almost certainly what happened. When you run it with Docker Compose, everything is ephemeral, meaning it'll, when you bring down the container, it just kills everything. And if you had anything saved in a config
that was stored inside the image, as opposed to locally,
right, you have to either declare a Docker volume, a permanent Docker volume, which that's slightly less dangerous to do, because let's say you just declared a Docker volume that just exists, it's permanent, or it's not as ephemeral as just letting it do its thing, and it just saves it in /var/docker or whatever, /var/lib/docker. It'll keep it there, but let's say you have a problem with that container and it doesn't get spun back up, and then you've got a cron job that says Docker prune volume tac AF, and it deletes all the volumes that are not associated with containers. You just nuked your volume that you wanted to keep. So the way to keep that from happening is to declare or to bind an outside directory, like something on the separate storage, to the directory in the container. That way it's kept somewhere, all that information is kept somewhere outside of Docker's preview. That's the best way to handle that. But yeah, I mean, learning Docker, I've once said that, you spend a lot of time learning computers, and then when it's time to learn servers, that's like learning computers all over again. When you go to learn Docker, that's like learning computers a third time. Because
I've got some adventures with Docker as well.
Yeah, because you've got it when you go into Docker, it really helps to understand some basic concepts like networking, the way IPv4 works, and the difference between DHCP and static IPs. Understanding what you need to have these things work right. Understand why you would need a reverse proxy, why you would need to what port 443 is for, what port 80 is for. Why do I need to open these up on the router? Do I even need to have this stuff accessible to the outside internet? And for most people, the answer to that is no. But maybe you might, if you're wanting, like people have been trying out Image here lately, and the most popular way of doing it is to keep it on your home network and maybe access it through Tailscale or something like that, which is fine. Not a very shareable method of making that accessible. So if you want to be able to access these services the same way you would access something like Google Photos or something like that, is you're going to have 443 and 80 exposed on your router, and then maybe a reverse proxy that sends that traffic to that server. And these are all things you've got to learn, and then connect it that way.
And you get to relearn it all again once you start playing with LXCs.
Yeah. And the more you get into containers, because Docker will make you kind of excited about containers, because you're like, man, I can get this up and running no matter what system is underneath, and people have opinions about that, but I mean, the bottom line is it works, and it is secure. It seems to work well, and it seems to really be kind of backwards compatible too, because these machines, both of these servers are from 2012, 2013, and they're running lots of containers really, really well without taxing the system. They're running them as though they're just individual processes, but in actuality, they've all got their own stack keeping them up. Well, anyway, I think I've bored everybody enough with all that server nonsense. So how about you, Joe? What have you had going on?
Well, just as an addendum to your last thing with the servers all running everything, I just wanted to add that you can also do it at a much lower cost with the mini, micro, tiny computers, which is what I've been doing a lot of lately.
Raspberry Pis.
You can also do it with Raspberry Pis. It takes a lot more work, and they don't run as much. But but if you're paying just as much for the what is it, the Think Centers, the really small mini, micro, tiny computers, and you're able to do everything that you can with the larger servers, doing something like Proxmox or something like that, and then not having the limitations of a Pi, even though the Pi gets better power consumption. But yeah, that's the only reason I would go with a Pi, is for the lower power consumption. But
ooh, and I forgot,
same price.
I tried Portainer out too, because I was in some of the research that I come across talking about alternatives to things like Watchtower. It was Portainer was mentioned, so I'm like, oh, for crying out loud! All right, fine, so I'll try it. And it's cool. That gives you a fully graphical sort of visual. You got all of the controls right there for every one of your containers. You can do anything that you would normally have to shell into a container and do right there from a graphical, and you got control over your volumes, your images, your containers, and you can do updating, although it's still sort of an arcane process of downing the container and bringing it, pulling the new image. And
yeah, you can do that in like 2 clicks, though. You click on the container, you click pull, and it should do it.
Yeah, I was looking for an automation though, and I'm starting to lean towards maybe writing my own script or something. I don't know, because I know the commands that would need to be ran, and at that point it's really just laziness keeping me from doing it any other way, because I could actually even work the pruning commands into that script, and then somehow or another write it in a way that would be shareable on GitHub, and some people could probably get some use out of it. I don't know, but yeah, Portainer, for anybody that wants to get into Docker containers and kind of scared of the very obtuse command line nature of it, seemingly anyway, from the beginning. Portainer, all it is, you spin it up. It is a Docker container itself, but once it's spun up, you just access it by going to the IP address at the port number that they tell you. I can't remember what it was.
It made Docker Compose much easier for me to understand when I started using Portainer, and the errors that can come up with Docker Compose, and it just showed me where I was making mistakes, and I was able to fix them using it. So, yeah, I like Portainer. But anyways, moving on. I haven't done much, honestly. I've continued with printing ABS. I
For a
love
dude
how
who
it's
says
coming
he's
out.
not done much, you've written quite a lot.
I always
We're
write
scrolling.
a lot.
We're scrolling.
I always write it out in a long form. I know you guys prefer, just to do bullets and ideas, but I like having it on there. So if I get lost, it's still there, and I can stick with it.
Fair enough.
No, I had several rolls of the ABS to go through. I still do. But I didn't have much that needed printing right this second. I did print some Halloween dust collectors, and I'll probably do a few more between now and then. I also picked up some light strips at a really good price, but without controllers. There were 2 sets at 12 volts and 1 at 24 volt for about $2. So like I said, really good price. But I did have to get the controllers, and I found out that I had power supplies for them. I picked up one and cut one of the 12 volt strips and attached it to the inside riser of the Elegoo Centauri Carbon, my 3D printer. It did improve the lighting, but I think I could do better with the 24 volt line. Still, it's pretty good for now. I may switch out the controller, however, since the one is IR, and the ones that I want to get are Wi-Fi. But I did pick up some ones that were not IR or Wi-Fi, just straight power through, and I'm pretty sure that I can control them well enough, since I'm only going to want white light on that with power on, power off over Alexa. Now, I ordered some barrel connectors for them as well, so that I can easily hook them to the available power supplies that I have. I have plenty of the 12 volt ones and one of the 24 volt ones. The 24 volt one I have from a filament dryer that didn't work out the way that I wanted. And the 12 volt ones are from those mesh Wi-Fi routers that I put to other uses. They both work well with the barrel connectors that I got, so it's come along well. I've only set up 2 of them so far, 2 of the 12 volt ones, but one of those is split, so I do have to add another connector on to the split one and see how that goes from there. Now, I repaired some of my low-cost Bluetooth headsets as well. Some of them are still pretty dang good after having the MMCX replaced on them after they wore out. But some of the others have like really terrible mics and really horrible battery life. I can still use them as backups for a while at the gym, just something to have small, tossed in my bag, ready to go, that I can continue jamming out to while picking up heavy things. Although I probably won't try to use them for phone calls unless it's a necessity. They are more than enough to make it through a gym session and get me home where I have better pairs, while still being small enough to fit into a pocket. I also grabbed one of my old Razer Nari Ultimates and put it back into production. They were previously having issues with the USB dongles, but this one seems to be working for now for some reason. It means that one of the times that I have a show while I'm out in the garage, I can start fixing the other side of the Arctis headsets that I have that needs the full can replacement on the microphone side. Looks like my Jellyfin server is doing well enough. I have not stress tested it to see how many transcodes it can do at the same time or anything, but the two that it sometimes has going seems to not be causing an issue, at least until Moss tells me otherwise. I've also been using it myself some recently because Plex does not like WireGuard VPN. So I usually, if I'm out of the house, I'm VPN'd back into my house. It's just a security thing, and it allows me to access all of my servers and everything at home that I'm not exposing ports for. So Plex just will not allow it, but Jellyfin will. So it has worked for me. I think I watched several old episodes of Red Dwarf while on the treadmill the other day. Probably going to start using Jellyfin a little bit more as time goes on, but I will say that Plex has some of its own stuff that's built in that's really nice, and I paid for it that one time, so I might as well use it every now and again. I still have not set up the new version of Nextcloud. Hopefully I get to it before next show or the show after. Back to 3D printing. My son had asked for a 3D printed mask. So I found one that I thought he might enjoy, and I printed it for him. Wanted to get at least one printed so that if it didn't fit him, and he picked a different one, I could at least guess at the scaling. But it fit, and he liked it. He was thinking about painting it, but I think he decided that the black will do well enough. Since excuse me. Since it came out so well, I also decided to 3D print a couple of things for myself with the roll. I 3D printed a beard pin that is a modded skull that I have printed before. It was a hairpin, but I needed to shorten the skull for it to work well on the beard. I also found a Viking helmet that would fit on my print bed as a single piece. It uses like half a roll of filament. I did give it a shot. I 3D printed it the first time. It did not fit. My head is just too dang big. So I was able to scale it just a little bit so that it was longer in the front than it was on the sides. And that fit actually really well. Like I said, it uses like half a roll of filament to print. So I did order some PLA for that, quick and easy prints. And I was able to also do some other prints for that. I 3D printed some skull candy bowls, but I think I'll talk about those in a little bit, so I will get to that. I did speak too soon in regards to my mini rack doing well. I started having a problem with one of the drives, like disconnecting and causing Open Media Vault to just crash. But I finally isolated which one it was, and sadly it was the one that had all of my movies and kids' TV shows on it. I was able to get it isolated and disconnected from the mini rack and then hooked back into my main PC. It also disconnected from there the first time I tried to save all the data from it. But while slow, it was working to copy off of it using the command line, which worked for a while, as root. I was able to get some of the kids' stuff off of there before it just would not stay connected long enough for me to copy anything off of it. The drive itself is passing smart test, and the errors that came up when I was looking into the device was with Journal and Superblock. I'm hoping it wasn't an actual hardware issue and something just messed up one of the times where the power randomly went out. And after getting as much off of it as I could, I did reformat it and then toss about 2 terabytes worth of data on it, and it did work just fine. So I did have an 8 terabyte drive that was being unused, and after remapping all of the LXCs to look at that instead and moving what I was able to save onto there, I did start the process of re-getting all of my movies, and yes, they are ones that I have owned, that I have had in my collection, so I am getting them, and it should be legal blah, etc. I'll probably get a takedown or something. Who knows? I am hoping in the future to start slowly replacing these drives. Yeah, I did buy them at extreme low cost. They were used, so it's not surprising that one or two of them might go out of the 5 that I bought. It's still worth it in the end as long as some of them work. I really can't complain, but I'm hoping in the future to start replacing with 16 terabyte drives and maybe one or two 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte SSDs to be able to put the LXCs directly onto. Now, like I was saying before, I 3D printed some giant candy bowls, which actually came out really well. It was recommended to print them in vase mode, but I didn't like how thin the walls were there, since that's literally 1 layer thick, and it wasn't necessarily... I probably could have upped the extrusion rate just a little bit to make them stick together a little bit better. But what I did instead, because I wanted slightly thicker walls, because we're actually going to put things in it, was I took the vase mode settings and then just added 3 more walls. So 4 walls makes it really strong. It does use quite a bit of filament, but giant skull candy bowls. So I did the first one a little bit smaller, specifically so that JoJo, when he goes trick-or-treating, he can use that as a candy bucket. And then I printed out a larger one for Jackie so that she can take that out front as a candy bowl for when the kids come by for, trick-or-treating. And then the kids saw it and decided they wanted one. So I've printed out, I think, 1 of the smaller ones and 3 of the larger ones. So... yeah, I guess it came out pretty good. And that's really all I've been up to, unless you guys got any questions about anything.
I just will say that I've heard a lot of people talking about or using Jellyfin, and most of them are Plex users like myself. I'm pretty satisfied with how Plex works, the free version. I've never paid for it, so for me it would just be experimental, but it's always interesting to hear other people who like Jellyfin.
I've been using Plex for years and years, and I did pay for it. I paid for the lifetime thing one of the times that it was on sale on Black Friday. I think it was $70-something, and now it's quite a bit more for the lifetime pass. But I've paid for the lifetime pass, and that provides a lot of the functionality that they took away in recent years with like streaming and things, and other people using or being connected to other people's servers and things like that. But like I said, the only limitation that I have now is using it over a VPN. And on my phone, I always have a VPN on. So I don't do it very often, but I had decided to watch something while on the treadmill, while at the gym, and I wasn't able to do it using Plex.
Well, I'm going to be talking a bit about some of this stuff when I get to mine.
And it is your turn.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's interesting actually that I would love to say that we'd planned all this, but we all seem to be having adventures with Dockers and Portainers and Jellyfin and Image and servers. Do you know what I mean? It must be something in the water. Anyway, so my wanderings. I'm back to full-time work now, thankfully, after my extended period off, being unwell. Still have a few days of leave that I have to take by a certain date, so it actually works out all right. That's good. So yeah, server time. So the last time when we were talking, I was talking about how I was using Open Media Vault, and I'd used a couple of guides, and it seemed to be initially, at least anyway, a bit like being a sysadmin on easy mode. And anytime I'd look for but some of the issues that I'd get would be that everything that you had to do using Open Media Vault tools. There was always something that had to be done slightly differently, even though it was just basically Debian. Anything you can think of, there was just some adjustment that you had to make because it was Open Media Vault. Having had the one success finally of getting Jellyfin working, I then thought to myself, well, you know what? I'm not able to get Image running, a couple of other things I couldn't get going. should I, now that I've made a ZFS pool and I've got the drives in, should I export them and reinstall Ubuntu server? And I remember thinking to myself, that sounds stupid. But of course, that's exactly what I did. But what I did was because the last time I tried to run Ubuntu server, I'd had issues because I couldn't get hang of having a GUI, not having a GUI and doing everything by the command line. So what I did this time was that I actually installed Ubuntu, so the lightest Ubuntu flavor I could think of, 2404. But I am using it headless. So, the way that I use it is I still try and SSH into it and do things through that, just so that, but then have the GUI that if anything goes wrong or I'm not understanding or I'm having a bit of a whatever, at least I've got recourse to that. Well, the one good news is that install went really easily. I have not actually needed to use the GUI since I've made the install. I've managed to do everything that I've wanted to via the command line. Main things that I wanted to do were Jellyfin, Image, Nextcloud, and Samba shares. Now, so first I just tried Jellyfin. Now, I'm sure I've mentioned before when I had an Open Media Vault, I had loads of fun-end games trying to get this working with Docker. Absolutely no issues this time round. Because I just followed the guides as they were. I've obviously learned a little bit along the way. I figured out how a Docker Compose works. So I got the Jellyfin running so unbelievably quickly that I wasn't sure that it had actually worked, and I couldn't understand how something which had taken me days before I've now done it in about 20 minutes. But it works. And now everybody can watch all the legally ripped, media that I have in the house. It's only for in the house. I don't really want to be accessing it outside, partly because I can't be bothered to figure that bit out as well. But I've got this working and it worked fine. Great. So now, having achieved something and felt that yes, I am a sysadmin now, I'm using the command line, I'm SSHing, things then started going a little bit wrong. Image, for reasons I don't get, and I've been trying to figure out, getting image deployed, using the Docker Compose, getting it deployed was fine. It won't, however, see any of the old photos that I already have on that server, which is a bit annoying. I've done a bit of messing around. I've changed around things in the Docker Compose, and still I haven't managed to. There is a section there on external libraries in the web interface. I've gone in through that. I get the odd weird error coming back. Like, if I point it to specifically the ZFS pool and where the location of all the photos are, it can't seem to find it. But if I was to make up a new directory and put it in the mount MNT directory, it seems to find that fine. Again, I'm sure it's something I've done a mistake on. Nextcloud, I've decided to park. I don't think I'm ready to go down that way. If it's one thing that I've learned through all of this is, don't start putting really important documents onto servers that might die. So I decided I'm going to park at Nextcloud for the time being. And it's quite interesting that we had the outage as well, which kind of validated my concerns, if you want to put it that way. So Samba. Now, this is one of the things that I've always loved about having a home network, is that you can access the different devices on your network and all that sort of jazz. This was already kind of set up for me when I was using Open Media Vault. It wasn't specifically set up for me in this install, and I had to do a bit of setting up. Now, the ArchWiki was where I had to go, so I went to the ArchWiki and I did a lot of messing around, and I just could not get the damn thing to work, to the extent that on last week's roundtable, people who were watching may well have seen about 25 minutes of tech support from Joe and Bill trying to get my Samba working. I persisted though, and I found out that the reasons were there were some incorrect settings in my Samba config file. and some incorrect IP addresses in there. Once I fix that, it works, and it works brilliantly. So, maybe I am getting somewhere with all this. You know, it is good fun, actually. I've quite enjoyed it, actually. So, yeah, it works now. Job's a good one. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. Okay. Moving on. We talked a lot about Cosmic on the last Linux OTC. I think we talked a little bit about it on Roundtable. So I decided to get Cosmic 2404 beta, the System 76 distro, and I put it onto my distro hopping laptop, and it's nice, it's performant. I spoke a lot about this at OTC, so if you're really interested to know, it's all there. The one thing I did think, though, which was a bit different to what some of the other guys had thought here, is I didn't think it was as configurable as some of the people were saying. A lot of the things around gestures and things like that, they just weren't there. Now, admittedly, this is a beta, and none of these things are what you would call game changers or deal breakers, but because I've seen quite a lot of stuff saying, well, maybe what Pop! OS are trying to do is that they're trying to come in between GNOME and KDE, have it looking simple but being able to do stuff. That's why like the tiling manager stuff is like baked into it. But I don't think so, actually. I just think, it's a perfectly fine, good desktop that's cohesive, works well, all that sort of stuff. Maybe I just need to explore it a little bit more. I don't know. Did you have any more adventures with it, Bill, after our last episode?
Oh, I haven't done anything important with it, but I've played with it, and the best I can say right now is it is probably a little bit better than GNOME is once I get everything set up on there that I need in order to get by with it. All of the things that we complain about GNOME not having, Cosmic has. Is it still a bit of a departure from the traditional desktop paradigm, I suppose, that we've all gotten used to from Windows from days of yore? Yeah, it's still a bit of a... But I think people have moved past that because of the phones.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The phones have kind of... phones and tablets have kind of forced us to accept alternative user interfaces and that. So it's not all that difficult to get by with. I just think that it probably comes out of the box with a lot better usability than you get just with GNOME as it is.
Yeah. That's it is definitely more configurable than GNOME is. You don't need to go into the whole extensions malarkey.
But what it looks, you look at it and you think, wow, this looks like, you could almost say this looks like GNOME 60 or something like that. That this is what GNOME will probably eventually be fleshed out to be, or they would if they weren't so terribly against some of the things that people actually want to use. Because what do you got? You got themability. You've got a system tray. So you can have system tray icons. You can use applications that run in the system. Hello.
Welcome to the 21st century.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever. So it makes more sense right off the bat. But it's still a little bit different from what people might be used to. Yeah, I don't. If you are just so, if you had to really set aside your prejudices just to use something like Cinnamon, then you probably would have a terrible time with Cosmic. But I think if you get on good with GNOME, you just wish that it had more functionality and that much more configurability than I think if you try Cosmic, you would probably get along just fine with that. You know.
I have a question about Cosmic. Does it have a launcher built in when you hit
Yep.
the
Yes.
super key? Can you type the first couple letters like FI and Firefox will pop up
Yep.
and then hit enter?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So it's got basically kind of like it's kind of a cross between the GNOME launcher and KRunner on KDE, in that you just start typing, a little thing comes up, and your application will come, but it also includes files. And it even tells you the keyboard shortcut for something. So say if you did find something on there, and you could just, it will tell you what, option 1, option 2, stuff like that. So it is, in that sense, it is in between. Because I always found that the GNOME launcher, it was great for applications, but that was it. Most of the time it would never find files that I'm looking for or anything like that. KRunner is fantastic. I love KRunner. The only problem is, if you want KRunner, you have to have KDE. Now, not that I've got a problem with KDE. I've used it many times before, but if I don't want to use KDE, I can't use KRunner. Albert is the one that Leo often talks about on OTC, which I've got on my Mint box, which is quite useful as well. But yeah, so that's a very long-winded way of saying yes, Jim.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I pulled it up just now in a virtual machine, and if you hit the super key, it just brings up a launcher on the top, and you can start typing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change the whole interface the way GNOME does and bring up an overview kind of thing. It just brings a launcher. But other than that, you
could launch an app without
Yeah.
touching the mouse.
Yeah,
Correct.
Yeah, very much so.
But you still kind of have the paradigm with the bar up top, with the calendar in the middle, and then you got a bunch of icons in the upper right. All the stuff that you would need, including the menu to shut it down. Then you've got a workspaces and application. Now it does have an overview, and then when you bring down the applications menu, you've got another place to start typing. And then you've also got you can search for applications, but you can also search for folders from there too. So I mean, it is a really it's clear that they started with GNOME and said, okay, if we wanted to make this our own, what would we do? And so if you,
as I said, it's good. I feel like I'm coming across negative. I'm really not. I mean, I do like it, but I just haven't seen what the USP, what's the big draw for using it. Now, it could be that I am not that target audience. I'm not a gamer. As you can probably tell, I'm not really a power user either.
I don't think their goal was to blow the world away with this brand new thing that is just like a whole new paradigm to start with. I think what they had was a set of add-ons that they were having to build onto every single version of GNOME to work with their customers, for their machines, and it got to the point where
it's like Mint, isn't it? It's like Mint. Remember Mint when Cinnamon first came? It was there was so many extensions that were having to be put on to make Mint. Oh, which version was it? It was the one for when Ubuntu 12.04 came out, but whichever version it was, Mint 13, I think. They had to do so many things that they said, you know what? Let's just fork this and make our own desktop environment.
It just gets to the point where it just makes more sense. Let's start from right here and then make our own thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Because when at the end of the day, System 76 has a product line that they are responsible for, that the experience that their customers are having with those machines. No matter what operating system they're using, they kind of own the experience that everybody's having, good or bad. So if you want to actually have some control over that, then it gets to a point where you just can't count on GNOME to have GNOME has their their priorities.
No, I mean, I
are,
mean, at the end of the day, you know, if you're dependent on another project, you're always dependent to another project. That's just it's just the way it is. And that's not you can think of that as a good thing. You can think of that as a bad thing. But it's just a fact of life, isn't it? And so, yeah, at a certain point, you know, that makes sense now. You know, at a certain point, they just went, you know what, it's just not, you know, it's easier for us to give the consistent experience that we want to give to fork it, as it were, build a new desktop environment rather than have all these extensions which might break, might not break.
and they're not new at it either. You know, they've got years of experience with their customers, interaction with their customers that has told them, you know, it's given them the information they need to where they know these are the features that our customers are looking for, you know, and if we're going to offer these features, then we need to own more of the stack, you know.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. I haven't done any other distro hopping. Although, having said that, I've had preliminary discussions with Dale because he wants to restart Distro Hoppers Digest. So I might be on that as well. That'll be podcast number 4 that I'll be on. Okay. So WSL, right. Okay. So I was at work. I was a bit bored. I was in between cases. I had my laptop, which is a Snapdragon 1. You know, Copilot Plus, all that sort of stuff, ARM-based, whatever. And I remember us talking about here that, you know, I wonder if WSL works. And so I had tried and I'd got WSL to work on that. I'd got Ubuntu working. So anyway, as I'm sat there thinking, well, what can I actually do with this? What does someone like me, a rank noob, do with something like this? So I did a bit of playing around. I installed some apps, you know, Snap install, Firefox, that kind of thing. I then wondered whether I could, you know, actually download more graphical apps that would then allow me to install sandboxed FlatHub apps, which I managed to do, which was very interesting. And then at the end of that, I thought to myself, what have I actually gained from this? I'm not sure I'd gained anything, but it was fun nonetheless. Which did make me. I did actually start asking the question. For people out there who do use WSL regularly, what is it that you use it for? I mean, I know the applications of it in development, but on a day-to-day basis. So there was one or two people that did, you know, on some of the distilled servers that I was on, did kind of answer saying that in the early days of Windows on ARM, so with some of the other previous like Snapdragon 8CX, Surface Pro X, this kind of stuff, performance was really ropey. Windows is heavy as shit, as we know anyway, and that too on that processor. And having WSL meant you could actually launch apps through that, and they would be quicker and more performant. But that's not really a thing now. So again, I just throw that question open.
Okay. Let me toss in a little bit there because now I haven't done it with WSL specifically, but back in the day there was an application called Cygwin, which is basically WSL before it was WSL. So it allowed you to run Linux applications on a Windows machine, and I really enjoyed actually using Cygwin. It took quite a bit to get it downloaded and up and running, but I was basically the tech shop for this karate school because my daughter was going there, and it was an expensive school, but they gave me a discount by letting me be their tech support. I was their tech guy.
Good.
And I was able to run their server and all of their automation using Cygwin. So I was able to do it all on Linux, but they wanted the Windows machine because that's what they had used their entire lives. So best of both worlds there. I got to run my stuff the way I wanted to. They got to run their stuff the way they wanted to. And we lost much. Oh,
Oh,
we lost his video.
okay.
That's what we lost.
Okay. So, all right. That sounds cool. As I said, it was a good proof of concept, and one of the nurses did say, "Oh, it looks like you're doing the Matrix type stuff on that computer there. You look like a proper hacker, you do." She didn't say it in that
Oh,
voice,
boy.
but that was anyway. One of the other things that I've been doing recently is retro gaming. I've got a Steam Deck because you know what, I run Arch, yeah, and so I've been trying to get emulation working on that. I wasn't managing, but I think that's mainly again my fault. I was putting stuff in the wrong directories and stuff. One of my friend of mine had been talking to me about handhelds that he'd got off Amazon, that with all, basically single board kind of thing made to look like a Game Boy or a Game Gear or whatever. I started going down that road and oh my God, that's a massive thing, isn't it? These retro handhelds. I mean, I didn't know there was so many. Oh my Lord. Yeah, definitely.
And some of them are good, some of them are garbage, and you don't know until you get it in your hands.
Exactly.
How you doing with that one I sent you, Joe? Is that still working
It
good?
stays in my work bag, so if I'm on a break or something at work and I have time, I will grab it and I'll play a little bit there.
So anyway, I got one, a Blidner R360S something. It's 50 quid, 20,000 games. It was great trip down memory lane, I'll tell you that. Playing the original Street Fighter 2, and it basically looks like a Game Boy. It's got that kind of form factor. So that was pretty cool, but I was a bit annoyed that there was no Amiga games on there. And as you guys probably remember, I was a real Amiga nerd back in the day. So I thought, wait a minute, I've got this Raspberry Pi 400 here. Here's on AudioPad podcast.
Hold on. Before you move on to that Raspberry Pi 400 right there, I'm going to point out that your handheld probably has a micro SD card in it.
Yes.
And it's probably running a version of Batacera or something similar to Batacera, which means that you can add the emulator and the game to it.
So that's what you would think, right? So
Yes.
I did go down that road, and basically what they've got is what's it called? ArcOS is the system that they've got on there, and you can add ROMs, but you can't add emulators. Now I'm sure if I did a bit more tinkering, I could probably figure it out. My mate, who was the one who got me onto this, was like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, you'll definitely be able to add more emulators on and this, that, and the other." But I thought, well, why? As I said, why not use the Pi? Because it's a Pi 400. It's got a keyboard already, keyboard-based games on Amigas. Why not? So that's what I've been doing since. I tried RetroPie. RetroPie didn't work as well as I anticipated. I don't know if has it not been updated or something, or have I missed something? But I downloaded the image, put it onto SD card, put it in the thing. First time it just kept on going into a terminal, which now didn't scare me because I can now vaguely navigate something in the terminal, but I did find it a bit odd. Then when I'd go into emulation station, it would say there was no emulators loaded up, and I'd be like, what's going on here? Maybe it's I had a bad ISO. Tried that again. Anyway,
I had the exact same experience with it.
Yeah. Anyway, so then I came across this thing called Recall Box, which sounds like it's something similar, of a similar type of thing, but again, a lot of these things are, there's open source things out there, AmiBerry, UAE, all these other kind of emulators. They're all put together either in EmuDeck or Batacera or in RetroPie or whatever. So it's all it's basically how it is presented to you. That's the thing, isn't it? And so what this was, it was using Kodi and using that to present Emulation Station with all the emulators. Anyway, I managed to get that to work today, and I've just managed to get my all my Amiga games onto it. So you know what I'll be doing after the show.
I'm surprised you're not doing it during the show.
Well, I mean, I could be doing it during the show, but I thought it might be rude if I said let that on.
Stop me.
The only other thing I was going to try was Pi Amiga, but if Recall Box is working, I'm just going to leave it at that. In the past, I've talked about how I did an Apple experiment of, can an iPad be your laptop, and that didn't end very well. Well, now I'm thinking to myself, well, can an Android tablet be your laptop? I bought this Xiaomi pad a couple of months ago, and one of the things I noticed was that it had like a workstation mode, basically like Dex. Yeah, and you could open up things in Windows and all this kind of stuff, multiple apps, split screen, all that sort of jazz, at a fraction of a price of what an iPad would be. So I'm going to try that as my next experiment. I've got the Folio keyboard that it comes with, which is very basically a Magic Keyboard clone. And this whole setup has cost me about 300 quid. Which is probably not as much as the bloody just the Magic Keyboard is for the iPad. So anyway, so I'm going to be again, that's something I'm going to try. I'm actually going to try and do proper work on it. My my presentations and all that sort of stuff. I did a bit of audio adventures. I was going to go. My Deezer free trial was coming to the end, so I thought I'm going to go to Qobuz, and then Spotify said, "Oh, we'll give you 2 months free." So I was like, "Okay, I'll come back to Spotify," especially now that they do lossless allegedly. It sounds as good as the Deezer Hi-Fi was, which was as good as the Tidal Hi-Fi was, but bearing in mind all of this was over Bluetooth, so there is going to be some compression. Depends which codecs you've got, etc., etc. I came across these earbuds called the Cambridge A100s, had really good reviews. They supported all the high-res codecs and stuff. I got them. Now, I don't know if it was my phone or it was the buds. I'm not sure which of the two it was, but connection was a real problem. It would just keep cutting out all the time. And so I got a bit annoyed with that, and it was still within the return period, so I sent it back. For a man that likes heavy metal, you'll be surprised to know that I've only just discovered Tool. I've been told that you don't find Tool, Tool finds you. That is very much the case, and I am now a Tool aficionado, and I've even been learning how to play some of the tracks, which are bloody difficult, but they're cool. Since I haven't done a TV update in a while, I just thought I'd say I've finished the Wheel of Time, and I'm really gutted that they've cancelled it after season 3, because season 3 was bloody good. I enjoyed that. Anywho, I have spoken for far too long and bored enough people. So unless there's anybody got any questions, go on.
If you enjoyed the TV series, might I recommend the 14 books?
Yes, I did look into this, and I thought to myself, that is a lot of books.
On book 14 on I don't know how many different rereads I've done. So
yeah, I mean, what I was going to do was actually get the book, which the one. So I know what this season has been based on, and the book that would come after, and to kind of at least then decrease it. Let's see how that goes.
No, it won't work.
Okay,
they're too different.
Okay, well, but it's a lot of books, man. I've already got a bookcase of stuff I haven't read.
That's what audio's for.
You can play it at 10x.
Yeah, you can if you're doing it at 10x. Yeah, I can't do anything after 2x, man. I'm sorry. I know I've got ADHD and shit, but I that's some next level.
I gotta work my way up to 2x.
Shit that I can't do.
Dude, some of these books are like 40 hours or 60 hours or some crap if you don't speed them up. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, 2x, but 5x, man. How do you do it on 5x? I have no idea.
Look, only specific books can I do at 5x, and it requires a specific non-accent. Well, an accent very similar to my own for me to be able to understand it at those speeds. So I can do Kevin Mitnick's books that he is the reader for. I can do those at 5x. I haven't. Other than that, like I can do the Wheel of Time books at 4.5x, but that's because I've listened to them several times before.
You've got these all on your audio bookshelf, haven't you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know,
2.5 terabytes worth of stuff. I could
Do
maybe
share.
create another user for somebody, but I
Yes,
don't know.
that sounds like a fantastic idea, but, Joe. You know how much I love you.
I
Yeah.
heard,
So,
I've heard, and I don't know for sure, but I've heard that you can get these the same way you get the viewable Linux ISOs.
Yeah,
yes,
Audio
maybe,
books.
which I have done in the past. You know, um, but you know, if someone's already got something set up, I mean, you know, it would just be rude, wouldn't it? Yeah. Anyway, I think Jim's itching to talk about more interesting stuff than my Wheel of Time. So, take it away, Melon Farmer.
I was just going to say, if you were old enough to remember the 90s, Tool
Yeah.
definitely found you. It was all over radio and MTV here in America. And I think their album Undertow is one of the best albums of the 90s. So,
Oh yeah, I'm just kicking myself as to how it's taken me so long to get there. Do you know what I mean?
The 90s. Remember when everybody sounded exactly the same? Listen down, you little man. Yeah.
I don't know what you were listening to, mate.
All that,
Yeah.
all that Creed and
that's stuff
Soundgarden.
that they listen to in Indiana.
Oh, okay, all right, fine.
White.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Blue-
quite a stereotype. The 80s and the 90s had a great variety of music. They're
Okay,
two best
80s had a
decades.
thing too.
Okay. You know, they did have a great variety of music. The problem got to be that
wasn't very good.
metal in the mid to late 80s started getting extremely whiny and annoying.
It was all the hair metal, glam metal stuff, isn't it? Which,
That's what the girls
you know,
liked,
yeah.
though, and that's what it was all about, really.
No,
end of
but
the
see,
day.
what I mean, when it was my time, it was it was all, everybody loved the grunge kind of, the disaffected loner, that kind of thing. The Nirvanas and the Pearl Jams and the Alice in Chains and the Soundgardens, and then we had Britpop here in the UK with Oasis. God, I love Oasis, man. I can't. Oh man, I've been listening to some live tracks from their this reunion tour. Oh man, what I wouldn't give. I
And
can
now the
understand why
kids-
people are spending like 2-3 grand per tickets, man. I can understand, man.
And now
I'm
they're
tempted
listening
now.
to K-pop. My daughter has a room decorated in that crap, and
Yes, let's not go
K-pop
down there.
K-pop has changed a lot in the last 20 years. That's all I'm going to say.
it is what it is. It's a phase, I'm hoping. But
Yeah.
it's tough
Just
for
like
this
my-
generation because the art has kind of like drained out of the tub, really. I mean, that might just be old man shaking his fist at the sky, but
No, it is true though that. So one of the things I remember, from the 90s was, you discovered bands, you'd become crazy about them, you'd save up money, you'd go buy a CD, if a single came out, you'd go out. Do you know what I mean? There was a whole paraphernalia around it, and you only had a certain number of CDs or cassette tapes or whatever. We're in an age now where everything's at your fingertips.
yeah.
Okay? And this just means that there's just so much choice. It can be a bit bewildering.
And the
know what I
quality, the quality stuff, the art, the truly valuable stuff is. I don't want to say it's hard to find because once you do find that sort of route to it, then you kind of know where to look because because these people are also more accessible to people nowadays. It's just a complete because back then we were told what to listen to, weren't we? We really were. We would find the radio station that played the music that we liked, and then they would tell us what to listen to. I'm sorry, but
It was much like TV. You
Yeah.
were listening to the least objectionable thing on the radio.
and then that was how we were spoon fed the things that we were told we liked. And nowadays, if you want something truly,
And especially if you were living out in the country or in the middle of nowhere. Because some of your cities had some big underground scenes, and so you could pick up the punk and things like that.
Right.
But whatever. Ancient history.
Yep.
Let's move on to Jim before his eyeball starts.
Jim.
Yeah, I don't want to go off on a tangent about '80s punk rock and the underground scene. I could talk about that a lot because I lived through it. But yes, so maybe another topic for another day. But well, I could tell you I've been up to a few things with computers. I'm proud, not ashamed, to say that I now have nearly 50 Firefox extensions installed, and they're all necessary.
I mean, the way
And-
the way you're kind of starting that out, it does sound very much like an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. Yeah, my name is Jim and I'm an alcoholic. It's like, my name is Jim and I have 50
You can't.
extensions
I'll tell you,
installed.
you cannot say the same thing about Firefox. In the case of like something like GNOME, you have to have extensions just to make it usable. Firefox by itself is usable. The extensions are to like add niceties
Value.
to it, value to it, to
Yeah.
make it work better for your
Yeah.
use case. Which is
But 50 is a good number. So go on.
yeah,
What have you got?
yeah,
that's a
I
lot.
think it's quite a lot, but it's not like I installed them all in a binge of just for the sake of doing it. This is over years. I've been using Firefox for like 20
Yeah.
years now, so over time, I've just accumulated different extensions and come in many cases to rely on them literally daily for all kinds of things. And one of them that I would like to recommend to people is called FF2MPV. It's a Firefox extension and also comes with a local companion app that you have to download from GitHub. I put mine in my /op directory. And what this does is it allows you to play YouTube videos directly in MPV. It's a quick and easy way to do
that's
this. I believe there
fantastic.
are other ways. But what it'll do is you could set it up with a custom keyboard shortcut. So if you're on a YouTube page, you hit the keyboard shortcut, or you right-click the link if you're using your mouse on the page, if there's multiple links, and it will launch that video directly in MPV rather than playing it in the browser tab, which takes a few seconds to load or more sometimes if it's slow. And it also has the benefit that there's no distractions, there's no ads, you avoid that loading time, and it also makes playing YouTube videos on really old computers or low RAM computers possible, because you're not trying to load it up in the page. If you find a link somewhere, you could just simply launch it directly in MPV. So I think it's a really neat extension, and I would recommend it to anyone. So if you're trying to play videos on your laptop or desktop.
I'm going to be taking notes. I'm going to be copying all your show notes so that I know which one these are some good ones here, man.
Yeah, it's definitely worth trying out. Another app I recommend, I've been using it for a while. I just put it on my new phone. It's called FTP Server, swiftly in brackets. But when you install it, it just calls itself FTP Server. It's a FOSS app on F-Droid, and we all know there are multiple ways to send files back and forth from your Android phone to your computer. But I think this FTP server is one of the quickest and easiest, because you just launch it on your phone. It creates a server on your phone, with some default username and password, which you could change. And then when you're on, say, in Mint Cinnamon, on your laptop or desktop or on any other device, tablet, you can, I know Cinnamon, you can go right into it and put the credentials in, and it gets you access to your phone. So it's a very quick and easy way, to transfer files back and forth from your Android phone to any of your other devices. And you could say, and on Cinnamon, you could save it under network, your different devices. So they're there.
Now, does this one have? Because there's like 3 or 4 that I've tried on F-Droid, and I can't remember the name of the one that I'm using now. I don't use it a lot, but every now and then. Does it support SFTP so that you've got some encryption going back and forth, or is it just bare
I believe
bones?
it does.
It seemed like most of them that I ran across did. for those that don't know, it's FTP, file transfer protocol, but it uses the same sort of key pair kind of way of doing things that you have with SSH. So you've got some encryption between the client and the server, so that your files are not just floating out in midair the way they are. Which, depending on what you're moving and how quickly you're moving it, it's not a huge problem, but it's that one little bit more security. But yeah, it seems like most of them nowadays support both of them. But it's almost a must-have, because it's moving files back and forth between a phone and a computer is not a simple thing anymore, really.
Oh no, I mean I've got loads of different ways of doing it. I've got like local send, I've used Packet,
It's simple enough if you have Nextcloud set up proper.
Yeah. But that's having a server running just so you can move one file, from a video or something.
I back up your entire phone constantly.
Yeah.
With Nextcloud.
But this
and you
is
don't
just,
have to worry about moving files.
You got one thing. If you're only moving files once a year, like if you're going on a trip and you want to take a video and put it on your phone so that you can watch a movie or something while you're in an airplane or something, you're not going to have access to any streaming, or you're not going to have access to your Nextcloud. Something like this would be really, really handy.
And then if you have Nextcloud set up properly, all you do is you take the video file that you want and you dump it into the proper file location on your server, and then it automatically appears on your phone.
Yep. This is true. And if it's the right codec, it'll play right from the Nextcloud app too.
Well, I'm looking at the app. I don't see anything about SFTP on here, so maybe it doesn't do that. But I don't think, honestly, for me, it's not an issue. To me, this is just when I want to transfer something, I just pick up my phone, hit the button, and boom, I already have it saved in Cinnamon, and it's done and it's quick. I know there are at least a half a dozen other ways, everything from a USB cable to all kinds of other apps to do the same process. But for me, this is a very quick and easy, able to transfer something back or forth, either direction in seconds. So
yeah, and honestly, for me, I wouldn't worry about it being SFTP, because I'm going to handle my encryption elsewhere. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be using a VPN of some kind to handle the full encryption of everything. So using standard FTP instead of secure SFTP would be fine.
Yeah, and it's not like I leave it on. I mean, as soon as I'm done, I turn it off on the phone. It's just for the purpose of sending files back and forth.
And you're not sending back and forth the plans to the Death Star or anything like that. It's it's a very handy, neat little and free app. So anyway, another discovery. We all know about YTDLP. We were talking about it earlier, but I would like to recommend one of those arcane commands that I think Bill referenced earlier. One that I use semi-frequently, YTDLP in the command line, --live from start . That is a command that allows you to, if you happen upon a stream that's going on, it's already in progress, a live stream I'm talking about, not something that's already just sitting there that's done. You could come in an hour late, whatever it is, as long as it's in progress. And if you use YTDLP with the command --live from stream, and then the URL, of course, it will go back and start downloading that video that's already in process of streaming from the beginning. And I use that all the time for different live events, and it works excellent. I don't see a lot of people referring to it online, but once I found it, I couldn't believe how well it worked. And just recently,
I used it for my son's graduation a couple of months ago, because they were broadcasting it on YouTube. Obviously, we had gone there, to attend, but I was able to set up the computer and stuff here before I went, and it was able to start when it started. It then started downloading it, which was pretty cool.
So you could execute this command ahead of time on a scheduled stream, and then it would just start downloading.
I haven't tried that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I usually wait till it starts, or a few minutes after it starts, and then if I know I don't want to have to sit and watch it, maybe because
Right.
I'm going out or I'm watching something else, I will. Sometimes there'll be an event going on like late night here, my hours, and I don't want to. I know it might take 3 or 4 hours. It starts at midnight. I'm not going to stay up. I will start recording it, and then in the morning, it's there. It's all there. So
That's cool.
You can combine that with. We all have a VPN of some kind, but if you want to get around, I know we've discussed this before. We could talk about this kind of stuff on this podcast, right? So, you could get around geo-blocking because YouTube has relatively trivial and easy to get around geo-blocking, and there are a significant number of entertainment or different types of events that the broadcasters count on the fact that it's blocked at let's say in the UK it's on YouTube, but here in the US it's a pay-per-view, or maybe it's not available at all. So I frequently combine the two. Just last week there was a bare knuckle boxing card that I wanted to watch, and it was free in the UK on YouTube. So I used live from start with YTDLP combined with my VPN to get it all, and sure enough, I was able to watch it the next day. So I recommend that highly. All right, so next we've also spoke about Make MKV before. I know Bill and I both use it. I think probably some of you guys have as well. Well, good news. The new beta, or beta, as Majid says, product key is available. And it is perpetually in beta. Lucky for us. By all means, send them some money and support them if you want. But for the freeloaders, the new key is available on their forum. And it came in just in time because I had a experience last week. I frequently borrow Blu-rays and DVDs from my local library, which I've spoken about before. And for some reason, the Jurassic World Rebirth new release movie would not play in my set-top player. I have an LG, it's a decent little $50 set-top player. For whatever reason, even though the menu and the FBI warning, the sound was normal, the feature, it was all crackly. And I tried to play it directly through my TV. I tried to play it on my stereo, just wouldn't work. Then I took the disc out, put it in my laptop, and it played there fine. So it was something to do specifically with my set-top player, not liking that disc. I don't know why. The first time it's ever happened. But
Do you have that player hooked up to the internet?
No. Actually,
See,
no,
the thing about Blu-ray and the reason why it won the contest over HD DVD is because it's got a revocable key system involved in it, which means the industry can revoke the encryption keys, and when they do, weird stuff like that happens until the player is able to connect back to the mothership and get the new encryption key. Make MKV keeps up with that, and they've got their own AAC encryption is what they call it. And if you don't have that thing connected to the internet, then it can't get the new encryption keys, and weird stuff like that can happen. So
okay, so even though I was borrowing a legitimate, commercial disc from the library, it's never happened
codec.
before though. I borrow a lot of movies. I watch one almost every week, and they all just play fine.
yeah.
Well, are they like all newer movies?
No, some of them are older. A lot of them are newer, 20, 25 movies.
I mean, they can do it on a by movie basis. That's the thing that was really
Each one can have a different code.
yeah, and the AAC system can have a set of keys for every single studio and every single movie, and if they find that this movie has been getting pirated too much, then they can yank the encryption key, which, it really only hurts people that are just trying to play it on their player, because the people that are using Make MKV, they just get the new version of Make MKV, and it's fixed,
Right.
So I mean, it's all a lot of nonsense. But yeah, I had the exact same thing happen years ago with a movie. It was that Moses movie with the guy that played Batman, Christian Slater. It did the exact same thing. I had no sound whatsoever, and then it it ran an update. It just came across as a regular update, but once it did that, then it started playing normally. So that's something a lot of
Interesting.
people don't know.
DRM.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fun,
Well,
fun,
first time
fun.
for me, rather than watch it on my laptop, which I could have done,
Yeah.
I wanted to watch it on my bigger screen. So yeah, I actually ripped it with Make MKV, and it was a big file. It was 35 gigs for the main movie and like another 30 gigs for all the bonus content and stuff. It ripped everything, no problem. And then I put it on one of my old hard drives that I have as my Plex drive, and I was able to stream it via Plex. And by the way, I don't know. I know people talk about transcoding. I don't have anything special. It just played, even though the files were huge. It played right. I mean, it's not going far. It's going like a foot through the air here, but still, it played perfectly, big file and all, and so it worked for me.
That codec set, the H.264 for the video, and then the audio is probably either in some sort of derivative of AC3 or AAC. I mean, that's pretty much supported everywhere. So you should never have a problem playing something that unless it's like some of them have that what is that, a DTS sound. Sometimes you'll run into a case where it won't play that because you got to have a receiver or something to decode that, and then you got to run it through, either play it with Plex or run it through Handbrake or something to change the codec.
Well, luckily I did not have to do that.
Right on.
All right. Next, I don't know if you guys also use Thunderbird like I do, but I have
Yep.
this thing on Cinnamon, this annoyance. If I have notifications turned on globally on Cinnamon, when I open up Thunderbird, anytime I click on anything, any folder, any local folder, anything, it gives me a notification. I'm not talking about when new email arrives. Those might be acceptable, but anytime I just click on a folder, it notifies me. I don't know why it does that, and I don't want to turn notifications off on my whole
But there's
desktop
a plugin
environment
or
globally.
add-on for
But,
Thunderbird you could get that'll stop it from doing that.
Yeah, I'm still hoping to figure that out. But
Yeah.
anyway, the reason I started monkeying with that again was because I recently decided that I wanted to have a calendar on my laptop. Usually I have it on my phone, and I always would just grab my phone anytime I wanted to use my calendar and also effectively my task manager. It's all here on my phone, but I said, well, I have Google Calendars, plural. Why don't I just also have it on my laptop, right? It's going to be synced because it's coming from Google Calendar. And well, that sent me down a little rabbit hole of trying different ways to make that work. GNOME Calendar is pre-installed on Linux Mint. I thought I could just use that. Sure, it's synced up easy enough, right? I have like 5 or 6 different calendars all on one Gmail address, all different colors, personal, business, whatever. And the problem is, number one, for some weird reason, GNOME Calendar, you cannot change the start of the week. So from Sunday to Monday. So for me, that's unacceptable. I was very annoyed by that. The only way to do it is to go into some of course, I Googled this and tried to figure out how and why. you have to go into some config files and trick your computer into thinking you're in the Republic of Ireland or something like that. There's no way to directly change it. You have to change your location where they default Monday as the start of the week by custom. And I thought that was ridiculous. On top of that, I did not like the way GNOME Calendar displayed the pop-up for the day's events. It was skinny and didn't really show very much. And worst of all, GNOME Calendar did not work with KDocker, which is something that I use a lot. I don't know if any of you guys have tried KDocker, but it's a great little tool that puts things down in the system tray on the bottom right on Cinnamon. It wouldn't open up, by using the keyboard shortcut. So this is like a mini rant. I'm going to explain how 3 things didn't work for me, and then the 4th one finally worked. So GNOME Calendar was out for those reasons. I tried to create a web app from Google Calendar. First time I've ever tried to create a web app, and it worked well. I created the app. It was in my menu. You could create a web app using any browser you have installed that the system recognizes. First, I tried Firefox. Then I tried Chromium. But the problem is when I set it up with KDocker, every time I minimized it down to the system tray, it still thought it was open. When you use the Alt-Tab, I think that's called the task switcher, it was still there. When you dock stuff with KDocker, the beauty of that is it's not, they don't remain in your task switcher anymore. When you hit Alt-Tab, they're not there anymore. It's like they're sort of hidden from there. So, again, that annoyed me. So
you've got this
the web app
concept
was out.
of window classes, and this is not a solution, but different windows for different types of applications have different window classifications, and then they get handled by the window manager differently. And this is because they've all got a different concept of what it means to be minimized and maximized, depending on if it's a supported, like a toolkit that's built into the operating system, or if it's something Electron based or whatever. The windows are handled mechanically differently. So that might be something you might want to look into, is just because I think KDocker has some options where you can, because I assume that you've added KDocker to the beginning of your commands to open these, because I think you've got a KDocker TAC L or something like that you can add to the beginning of the launcher when you open these, and it just automatically puts it right down in the tray. You've got a command that will open it in front of you and have it down in the tray. Then you've got another one that opens it and sends it straight to the tray. And there's different variations, and then there's different tack-on commands for different window classes too. So that might be something worth looking into, because not all types of windows are understood the same way by the window manager. That's the limit of what I know about that, because that is irritating, because not everything,
Well,
you would think that everything would behave the same way. It's just another window on my desktop, but it's absolutely not.
Right. Yeah, I love KDocker as a general rule. I have, not to go off on a long tangent, but generally what I do all day is I have Firefox open without KDocker. That's like the one app I keep open all day on my laptop. Then I have Thunderbird, KeyPass XC, and now the 4th one I'm about to tell you about. I have those open, and I have, we hit Windows 1, or excuse me, Super 1, Super 2, Super 3, Super 4 from order left to right on the panel. And I have the other 3 associated with KDocker, so they all disappear. So when I hit Alt-Tab, nothing shows other than Firefox, unless I open up undock them and they come up again. So anyway, it's just like the way I like to work. But the third thing I had to try, since Google Calendar web app wasn't behaving the way I wanted, was I have Thunderbird, of course, as my email client. So I said, well, calendar works. There's a calendar built into Thunderbird. Let me, associate it with Google Apps, the calendars I have. Excuse me, not Google Apps. It's associated with the calendars I have on my Gmail. And that was fine. It worked well. The only problem then is when I opened up Thunderbird and I wanted to look at my calendar, my emails start downloading as that's happening. And even though it's in a different tab, again, that annoyed me. I don't want to see the notifications. If I want to look at my calendar, I just want to look at the calendar. I don't want to be forced into getting bombarded with new emails and seeing all the notifications. So again, I gave up on that. Finally, I came up with option 4. I said, oh, there's Betterbird. It's a fork of Thunderbird. Of course, it's an email client, but it also has the same calendar functionality built in. And that finally worked for me. I used an install script to place Betterbird in /opt. I did not link it to my Thunderbird account purposefully, so I wouldn't just recreate the problem I just told you about. No problem making Monday the first day of the week. It works as expected with KDocker and the keyboard shortcut. So now I hit Super 4, and boom, it opens. I could see my calendar, interact with it. I hit Super 4 again. KDocker throws it back down in the lower right in the system tray. Clean. So I finally found a way to have my calendar open up and close without any negative interactions. And of course, any changes I make are reflected on my phone and vice versa, because this is all originating with Google Calendars. So that was my saga of setting up my calendar. I'm finally reasonably happy. A very minor thing I'll mention, I got a new USB wired mouse. It's called Technic. It's a $9 mouse. I quite like. I already have one on my laptop here, and it's pretty nice. And I've been using these old mice for years, and finally some of them have started dying and wearing out. So that was a new purchase of mine. Now I'm going to talk about something else I spent some time with. Not distro hopping and not desktop environment hopping like what Majid did, but actually OS hopping. I have a cheap computer that I bought.
Go on, man. Go on then.
So yeah, I have a cheap computer that I bought last year on Craigslist for $20 whopping. And the reason I got it so cheap was because it had no Wi-Fi, which in today's world means it's useless to most people. As you know, or you may be aware, many young people don't even know the difference between Wi-Fi and the internet. They just assume it's the same thing.
Wi-Fi is the internet.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I got it so cheap. I got it's like a 12-year-old Celeron computer, and I bought it specifically so I could, if I wanted to do distro hop or OS hop in this case, experiment, I could do that on a computer that I had nothing else on. It actually has a small SSD, so it only has 4 gigs of RAM, but it's not bad. In any case, last year I discovered Ghost BSD. It is an OS based on FreeBSD, and it's up to the latest 14.3. I will refer to it, these are my words, as the Linux Mint of FreeBSD. And
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if any of you guys
Your
ever tried
Wi-Fi
it.
wouldn't work anyway, so.
Well, yeah, maybe not, but luckily I had a old USB Wi-Fi stick from 2006, so we're talking nearly 20 years old, wireless G. But that's fast enough because the modem sits right on top of it practically, here in my office.
Is
so
it
it's
just
more
missing
than
the
fast
card,
enough.
or is it? Did it? I assume it came with one. Is it just gone out of the machine, or what? Do you know?
This computer has no Wi-Fi card in it. That's why the guy sold it to me for so cheap.
So it never had one. It's
It doesn't look like it. You know, I mean, it's not like I don't know. It doesn't say Dell on it or some brand that I recognize. It's like a small or medium size, I should say, form factor desktop that this guy put different mix and match parts in. Probably. So again, I bought it from Craigslist. It is what it is, but it works fine. It's fast enough for this kind of purpose to experiment with. And yes, the little USB key that I have with Wi-Fi just plugged in the back and instantly was recognized. No drivers, no nothing. So boom, it worked fine. So in any case, I installed Ghost BSD on here, and I was just curious to try it out, right? Because I'm so happy with Linux Mint. I'm not that incentivized to distro hop. I don't really care about going around the horn and trying Arch and Fedora and all these other things. Maybe I will someday, but the challenge of finding a completely different operating system that vaguely had the same philosophy as Linux Mint, meaning it's a noob-friendly system that comes with a default desktop environment, that comes with a full suite of software, and is basically ready to go out of the box. That's why I say it's like the Linux Mint.
Okay, Jim, now I'm going to have to do this, aren't I now?
You want to try? Yeah, I'm recommending it. It's very fun. To me, it was a challenge. Like, if I had to, I know we don't do challenges on this podcast. There are other podcasts that do this, but if I had to, or you had to not use Linux anymore, and you definitely didn't want to go back to Windows, could you, do your day-to-day activities? I would recommend, and you had to pick one, I would recommend Ghost BSD because it comes with, Firefox installed, not the extended service release. It comes with the latest, right? So it's up to, I think, 1.4.4 right now. It comes with a whole suite of software: Evolution, Mail and Calendar, LibreOffice. It's got the Caja file manager, and the default desktop environment, by the way, is Mate. Mate is, to my view, not that dissimilar from Cinnamon, because I think they were both based on GNOME a while back.
Yeah, I mean, Mate is basically GNOME 2 continued, and Cinnamon is fork of GNOME 3 to make it look like GNOME 2.
Both of those things were built out of anger with GNOME.
Yeah.
And one was for everybody that was angry, but one was for everybody that was angry but wanted something new, and the other was for everybody that was angry that wanted something old. And
right,
basically that's how we ended up going down that route. But
that's actually a very good way of putting it, Bill. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, and of course now they're both based on the newer technologies and whatnot, but they've maintained the paradigms and the form factors, that we've gotten used to. And you could argue the BSDs have stayed closer to the traditional Unix sort of way of doing things, and they've done it quietly, and they don't have there's not as much zeitgeist out there for...
Oh God, you fanfare. Love that word, don't you?
There's not as much fanfare.
Not as much fanfare, no, for the BSDs. They've got their way of doing things, and
okay. Playing devil's advocate though, if you're a Linux user, what is Ghost BSD is giving to you that you can't get in the Linux world?
Yeah, it's not about that, because it's more about feeling challenged by this, limitations, and it's not. There's nothing that BSD is going to do for you that Linux can't. Some people like to use it. In some cases, they like the philosophy of the BSDs. They like the fact that it comes from, and it's one integrated team where Linux is a kernel, and then there's these GNU utilities around it and different core utils and an init system and all these other things. It's a hodgepodge of different stuff. Whereas the different BSDs, FreeBSD, and then NetBSD and OpenBSD are these integrated systems. Some people like to use them for servers. There's a lot of reasons why people prefer BSD. I'm sure some people want to do it because they want to be hipster and just use something more obscure, So
right, Linux wasn't obscure enough, so they had to go with something even more.
Yes.
obscure.
I think I have a little bit of that in me. Like I was curious to see if could I do everything that I'm doing on, now 2 years in now, using Linux on FreeBSD, with this, version of FreeBSD, GhostBSD. Could I do it? And so far, I'm finding it's pretty complete. I mean, because it comes with Firefox, right? You sync up your account, all your bookmarks, all my dozens of extensions showed up. Everything works. I tinkered with the theme, and I customized all my keyboard shortcuts. I put the aliases and the fish shell to make it, function more or less the way I have Cinnamon set up. So it's familiar to me, when I'm using the keyboard and everything. And then, I went and I looked at the Software Center because it's kind of like the Synaptic Package Manager, like you have on Linux, and they have nearly everything that I use. I found Albert, my launcher that I use nowadays there. I found CopyQ, the clipboard manager that I use daily. I found Thunderbird. I found Celluloid, which is the MPV front end that Cinnamon uses. I found VLC, of course. So all the common video players. Cinnamon uses Pix, with, the photo app, and there's millions of photo apps. But then I found GThumb, which is very similar to Pix. For command line software, I found YTDLP, which I use frequently. So nearly everything out of the box that I use on Mint is available right in the Software Center on GhostBSD. And the only couple of things that might take a little bit more tinkering, like, for example, my paid VPN provider does not have a free BSD app. However, there are ways around that. You can get I think it's called a token or something, and you can use WireGuard or something like that. I bet you I could even get that going, although I might have command line. So with very few exceptions, everything I used here on Cinnamon was available there.
I'm gonna break your heart. I really
What's
am.
that?
Several years ago, there was a lot of work put into BSD to get a translation layer so that there is a way to run Linux applications directly on BSD. Mm-hmm. It was originally started, I believe, as a project to get all the desktops from Linux working correctly on BSD. Now, it's been several years since I looked into this, but I don't see why you couldn't run anything from Linux on BSD at this point.
Yeah, it's called Linux Later. Of course, it makes more sense if the programs have already been ported and they're available in the Software Center. Obviously, you just want to use that. But yeah, there are some people that are using Linux Later, their translation layer you just referred to run some of the programs from Linux. I know that Wine is available there if you want to run Windows programs. And as of late, like the last year, there's been a lot of momentum for getting Steam working for people playing, just like a few years ago, how Steam became possible and you can play all kinds of games on Linux. Well, they're kind of catching up on FreeBSD proper and now GhostBSD by extension. So there's really very, very little.
Obviously, it's better if things are running natively.
Yeah.
But that translation layer allows for a lot more flexibility in applications. So anything you can run from Linux, you can run on BSD.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And then lastly, so anyway, I guess I got some of the excitement that I got 2 years ago when I first switched to Linux and, just started learning about it and discovering and making everything work, similar the way I did on Windows. I kind of feel that now with Ghost BSD. So I'm going to keep playing with it and see if I can, recreate every functionality I have here on Cinnamon.
Is
over there.
BSD going to be the new? Oh, you run Arch?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at the hipster points I'll have. Oh, you use Arch? I use Ghost BSD. Normie. So,
Yeah.
And lastly, the last thing that I think makes it similar to Linux Mint is that there's a really surprisingly for the tiny community that it is in relative terms, there's a really active forum that they have online and a Telegram channel, which is kind of like their Discord, where it's pretty active. There's people, the developers and users are there. So if you do,
I bet Bill will be on that straight away, won't you, Bill?
well,
You
don't be afraid of Telegram, man. It's just fine, if that's where they set their community up. But the cool thing is that, considering how obscure it is, compared to Linux Mint or any Linux in general, the community is pretty active. So if you do have questions or need help, if Maja wants to follow me on the journey, you've got some resources to access.
It's being downloaded as we speak.
Oh my.
All right. Well, anyway, the last two things I will discuss before I go too long here. Sometimes I like to mention media that I like. I really, really enjoyed the latest episode of The Simpsons, the Treehouse of Horror, episode 36 from October 19th. It was broadcast on Fox over the air. They parodied The Blob, a movie called Late Night with the Devil, and also a combo of the movie Waterworld and the Mad Max franchise. It is available on Hulu now, and I know some of you may be lapsed Simpsons fans, but if you are ever going to dive back in, the Treehouse of Horror episodes, they're Halloween specials, effectively. They're always the best episode of The Simpsons for the season. And,
I have to
found them
agree with
very,
you
entertaining.
because Simpsons has been on for a very long time.
Yeah.
And excuse me.
Was it
And,
40 years now?
30,
since the
season
late 80s.
37.
89 was the first season.
Yeah, and I can remember one of the most disturbing things I remember watching in the late 80s or early 90s was one of the Simpsons Halloween specials, because it just seemed like a very disturbed mind compared to what I was used to seeing in those days.
Right.
And then subsequent years I would watch it and it was like, yeah, there is some real creativity going on here, for people that are not used to seeing things. I'm not saying I was sheltered by any means, but I was not exposed to a lot of that kind of thing growing up. And
I haven't watched Simpsons for a long time, actually, because I always it seemed, like a lot of these things, they seem to run out a bit of steam. It wasn't part of the zeitgeist anymore. But I feel like I've missed out. Actually, I've probably missed out, I think.
Well, now you've got a place to dive back in, check it out. Whether you continue from there is up to you. But
report back in. We'll be doing the next episode from FreeBSD.
Yeah, I'm going to make a note. I'm going to ask you if you watched it. Homework. All right, and then the very last thing I'm going to talk about, RIP to a musician that
Yes.
I loved growing up, Ace Frehley, founding member, original lead guitarist, and occasional vocalist of the rock band Kiss. As a child, I was a huge Kiss fan. I dressed up as Ace Frehley for Halloween. Speaking of Halloween, one year with the face paint and the whole get-up. I saw his band Frehley's Comet in 1988. He opened up for Iron Maiden on that tour in Albany, New York. That was a great show. With my brother, I wished I had taken more opportunities, in the years since, because he toured for many years in smaller venues like clubs and theaters. I could have been right up there, feet from him if I wanted to. So, but at 74 years old, he passed. He fell down the stairs recently and injured himself so badly that sadly that cut his life short. But just remembering a musician that I liked, and I've been listening to all the different memorials on the Eddie Trunk radio show, and R.I.P. Spaceman. Well, on that note, we now are going to move to, I don't know, are there any vibrations from the ether, Bill?
Not that I'm aware of. If anybody else has anything, get a hold of the show, folks. We love to hear from you. We'd love to. If you don't want us to read it on the show, you can mention that in your email. But mintcast@mintcast.org, or hit us up on Discord. That's probably our most vibrant place.
No, I personally think our Telegram is fantastic.
Well, you'll be able to get everybody but me. Yeah.
All right. Well, then next we have a segment called Check This Out. I know I actually talked about different things that could have went in here, but I do see Zen Browser.
Yeah.
Wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. So, just from when we were talking yesterday about, using Firefox and all this kind of stuff, I've seen quite a lot of discussion about this browser on the online. So I did download it and try it out myself. If anybody has ever come across the Arc browser by the browser company, which seemed to have a bit of a, it was in the news. People liked it. It was on Mac OS. First it was invite only, then it was Mac OS, then it was on Windows as well. And very interestingly, the company got sold probably to some venture capitalists, and now they've abandoned that browser, and now they're making an AI themed browser because everybody's about the AI. Anyway, the idea of the Arc browser was what if instead of having a browser that was designed 15, 20 years ago and has now gone with the times, what if you were designing a browser right now? What would it look like? And it would look a lot like a desktop environment. Now, they used Chromium for their base. So some clever guys set up Zen Browser, which is basically the same thing, but with a Firefox base and open source. Obviously works on Linux. And it's something that I found it interesting. I'm not sure I'm going to say I'm going to move over to it, but the fact that all your Firefox extensions, your Firefox history, your Firefox account all work with it, meaning that, even if you have spent a long time on something like that, you can you can try that out and see what it's like. I was recommending it to Jim yesterday, then I thought, well, actually, I'll just put it in the check this out. I'm not sponsored by them or anything like that, by the way. I mean, if they want to come and give me loads of money to sponsor them, I'm more than happy for that to happen. But they're not. It's just, I just found it.
The state of the economy, we cannot afford to turn someone down if they want to sponsor us.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. But hey ho. So yeah, that's why I put that in there. Check this out.
We will shill for your thing from top to bottom. We'll stop talking every 10 minutes to talk about your thing if you want to give us money.
We
Have you ever tried Magid Mobile?
we will sell mattresses on the show. I'm telling you.
Cool.
All right. Well, I think we're down now to housekeeping and announcements. Unless anyone has anything they want to get in last second here. All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of mintCast. If you see something that you think we should be talking about, tell us. You could send us an email at mintcast@mintcast.org. Join us live on YouTube. You could post at the mintCast subreddit. You can also chat with us on Discord and Telegram, or post directly at mintcast.org. Our next episode will be at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time on Sunday, November 9th, 2025. Next Saturday, we will host a roundtable live stream. That's open to everyone. Please come and join us using the Discord voice channel at 2 p.m. U.S. Central Time, Saturday, November 1st. The live stream information is available at mintcast.org/livestream. And now we'll wrap things up. Joe?
Well, if you like the sound of my voice, I'm on a couple of other shows. I'm on the Linux Think Tech Show, which you can get to at tllts.org. I'm on the Linux Lugcast, which is available at linuxlugcast.com. You can send me an email directly, jb@mintcast.org, or you can use the link in the show notes and buy me a coffee with Ko-fi. I really do appreciate it when you guys do that, and I love bringing that to the show. Moss could not be here with us today. You can catch him on Full Circle Weekly News, Moss at BodieLinux.com. He's on Mastodon at Zyvala at hosthooks.social, and occasionally he puts out a show on HPR. Bill?
You can email me. I'm bill@mintcast.org. I'm at wchauser3 at fostodon.org on Mastodon. Also, I'm on Linux OTC with Eric and Majid. Majid?
So you can email me on drmajid@mintcast.org. You can get me on Discord, Atypical Doctor. Then I also have the Atypical Doctor podcast, and I'm on Linux OTC with Bill and Eric, who couldn't be with us today, and he can be reached by email at eric@mintcast.org. Charles also couldn't be with us today. You can get him at charles@mintcast.org or Mr. PDX on Discord. Jim?
I can be reached, jim@mintcast.org. I'm also known as GNU2Linux on the Discord. And I also have my own YouTube channel where I make occasional podcasts about Linux and related topics, the Linux Shortcut on YouTube. All right, well, before we leave, we want to make sure to acknowledge some of the people who made the mintCast possible. Thanks to Bill for our audio editing and for hosting the server, which runs the website, for website maintenance and the Nextcloud server on which we host the show notes and raw audio. Thanks to archive.org for hosting our audio file. Thanks to Hubstar for our logo, and InitRD for the animated Discord logo. Thank you as well to Londoner for our time syncs and various other contributions. And finally, to the Linux Mint Develop team for the fine distro we love to talk about.
Thanks,
Clem.
Clem.
And Co.
And that's a wrap.
Thank your father, kids.
Thanks, Dad.
Oh, nice one, Jim. That was really cool.
Yeah, well done. Thanks everybody in the live stream,